After the loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, a lot of people had questions about how Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan were going to respond, including Steve Young. So, when CanVR caught up with Steve Young today on Tolbert and Copes, yeah, I think Steve was pleasantly, not only, I can't even say surprised. I think he was just pleased with the performance of both Brock and Kyle, where we had those conversations last week. Wanted to see how they were going to respond. Not only were we happy, but so is Steve. Take a listen at what he saw from Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan against the Dallas Cowboys on CamBR right here.
It almost feels like no harm, no foul. Like they could have been better. Their record could be better. They're not. It could have been worse. It's not. It's like, okay, they've been here before. No one's pulled out ahead of them. The whole division's kind of in this soup pot, and we're waiting for someone to hey, it's me. We're the team in this division. Where are you feeling about where they are in the landscape of the NFL?
Well, yeah, bro, I'm not going to talk about how to go win the division. I'm not going to pay attention. I know I should.
Because you don't care.
But no, it's just that we need to talk about what are the things that we need to do so that we can go beat the Lions or whoever it is at the end of the year, the Packers. Who knows who we're going to see, and then who are we going to go beat in the Super Bowl, and how do we do it, and what's going to hold us back. And it's obviously with injuries, we're not going to be fully staffed this year. So that's okay. We get that. But what can we do? And you saw it last week. I thought it was a little bit of a middling game until what we talked about last week. Kyle with some innovation. I mean, there's some cool little wrinkles, some fun stuff that I was like, man, I like that. And put defenders in a tough spot. We're going to see tons of man. And I don't know that we're going to see a ton of zone in the future. I just think that they're going to keep bringing the man-to-man. They'll have different iterations off of it. I got to wonder, what's number 9? I don't even know. I don't even want to know his name. I mean, he's in charge of covering George Kittle on man-to-man. You're like, bro, you could be within 10 yards. George runs a simple crossing route, and he's like, I don't know, he's in center field somewhere. Like, where are you? But I think that, I'm encouraged that we get our innovation going. Brock spits out 56 yards or 50. I can't remember what it was. You know how I'm about the wholesale game, and 70-30 is that perfect match. And I thought it was a 70-30 game for Brock. It was perfect. It was, look, the ball's moving. It might be me. It might not be on script. It might be on script. I mean, but I'm good. I'm good for it. And I think that level of, kind of his involvement in the game and making sure that it happens the way he wants to is kind of the template. So if we get into big games in December and January, it feels like that's the kind of output that we're going to need from him. And I thought it was great.
I get what you're saying. Winning the division's not important.
You can't take your ball off of it. You take the eye off the ball.
It's not the most important thing. Like, that's not their aspiration. Should be higher.
And again, I'm being a little bit conflating, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be talking, like, if we want to get where we got to get, it's not because how do we figure out how to win the division? Because then we're going to come up short. It's really, how do we go beat the Ravens in the Super Bowl? How do we beat the Chiefs again in the Super Bowl? What do we need to do? And I'm just, there's a lot of other little things, but from the quarterback spot, I'm enjoying him expanding on his game and putting defenses in more of a bind. Like, he's not going to run. Look, he's not going to run away like Lamar Jackson, like we talked about the other day, but that 56 yards were impactful. Yep. They were important. And again, in the red zone, I might have to send some plays into Kyle, like, hey, on RPO when he carries the ball, like one time he carried the ball, it looked like it was half meant to be. It was like, I think it was supposed to be a screen. He got covered. The lineman headed out. And so he turned it into a little bit of an RPO and then ran for like 25 yards. And so putting our quarterback out into space to put more pressure on defenses when we're not fully staffed is the thing that's got to happen.
Okay, so in your opinion, what is the most concerning thing to you heading toward the last 9 games of the season? What needs to tighten up for this team to get to where you think they could get to?
Well, offensively, you got to figure that Christian says he's going to practice on Monday. And if he can stay, and I think if he come back and stay healthy and really kind of get into the flow of things, I mean, that's number one. Christian McCaffrey healthy for the second half of the season. That's, you know, there's nothing. That's number 1, 2, and 3. Now number 4 is, protection. Making sure that when we run into the teams that can rush 4 and put you in a bind, that our 5 guys have got to answer. And I would say that we need to prove that. So that would be the 4th thing. The first 3 things are Christian McCaffrey, and then that one. I'm always talking about going and getting more talent out. I don't mind. I mean, look, if they find somebody that can really help, great. But if I find people that can get in the way too. I don't want someone to come and get in the way. But defensively, look, it doesn't look like we're going to be a defensive front that's going to just bring 4 and just cause all kinds of grief. We know we can pinch with Floyd and Nick, and that's not going to go away, and it'll always be an important part of what we get done. But we can't push. And so we're not going to dominate from the defensive line. It's going to put pressure more on our secondary. And I got to admit, everyone's pretty excited about the secondary. I am too. I kind of like watching them. I like where they're going. And maybe can we become kind of a top-heavy defense instead of a line-heavy? Like our back end is kind of like, I know I'm wishful, but I don't know. It makes me feel like young guys can start to just grow into something they can start to, dictate to some of the bigger teams. And you think you're going to throw it all because whenever we've played Joe Burrow, Lamar, Patrick, even Jared Goff and Love, they take it to us a little bit. And if we can answer, because we're going to see those guys in all the big games, can we shut them down from the top down? In other words, our secondary locks up, goes man, and just shuts people down. That'd be kind of cool. That's kind of I know it's aspirational, but I think it feels like we have the beginning of something like that. So that'd be cool.
So when we were watching the tape of the Kansas City Chiefs, we kind of had similar things to say about that game as Steve Young did. We wanted to see more creativity out of the offense. It felt like there was just no creativeness, and it felt like the Chiefs had not only Kyle's number but Brock's number. It just felt like Spags had both of them in a bind, and we just wanted to see how they would respond. We had similar questions, thoughts, because that game against the Chiefs was so uncharacteristic of both Brock and Kyle. And man, they answered the bell. You heard Steve talk about it. He was happy with some of the creative plays that he saw. I also loved the bit where he was like, maybe I should draw up some running plays to send to Kyle because we got to utilize Brock's legs more. And I mean, he has a point. We check in with Steve every week. He's been saying the same thing all year. Use Brock more as a runner. Use Brock more as a runner. And as this season has progressed, we've seen more and more and more of Brock Purdy creating outside of structure. And those are the free yards that he talks about that really just breaks the backs of other teams. So it's hard to argue with Steve. It really is. Like, he's been pretty on point. Like, again, this is why we always check in with Steve. He there's been points in his analysis where people disagree, but it's always come full circle, and he's always kind of been on point because he's always talked about, I don't know if Brock is in that elite tier category of the quarterback that he always talks about, but as Brock has continued to progress, he is using his legs more. He's creating outside of structure. He's not just executing within structure. It's the things he's doing outside of structure. And again, Brock's continuing to take his game to a next level. Kyle Shanahan getting a little creative. So I think it was good. I think we all liked what we saw. So now, how do they get into the bye? How do they make adjustments? And how do they go from there? We'll see. But let me know what you guys thought about what Steve Young had to say in the comments below. Link the description to the full interview as well. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.